Yo, peace. Welcome back. Secret House Against Tokyo-based hip-hop art and culture conversations. Today, you guys can see that Jed and I are here with Deza. Deza will be a more reoccurring character on the show.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, Tokyo-based hip-hop, such and such. We primarily discuss independent, underground, avant-garde, experimental, abstract, radical hip-hop work. And, yeah. What else do we do? We do that.
Yeah, we do things. We talk about raps. We drink highballs and energy drinks.
Sometimes we'll take long walks off of short critical theory tangents. Yeah. But today we're back to discuss the new album by Throne, which is stylized with spaces. The album title is Tempest. It is a fairly short album. 9 songs. What is it, like 25, 30 minutes?
Yeah. 20 minutes.
It dropped in... I'm missing details on my notes, but it dropped on the 7th, I want to say, on the 5th. And they were kind enough to send us the album early, so we had a lot of time to sit with this one and let it ruminate and marinate in our thoughts. But still, they are an underground independent group who does not necessarily have a tremendous amount of information available. So if we make any mistakes, feel free to drop those in the comments, or also drop your thoughts, favorite songs, things of that nature. But yes, Throne is a music duo based out of, I believe, Oklahoma. It consists of Yahega and Hyatheus, or H. They've released several albums over the last few years and have developed a really impressive grassroots following. I look at their Instagram numbers and I'm like, wow, congratulations, that's really dope. People are really rocking with your work, and I appreciate that, and I can see why. I believe the first album that they dropped was just 2 years ago in 2022 called Lionfish. It came out, and I went back and I listened to that one. It just sounded fully formed as soon as they came out the gate. And I think the first song, Yahega, who is of a First Nation indigenous lineage, at least partially, I believe, she rhymes, or she performs a whole song using that indigenous language, which is which was really a treat, and also a fantastic addition to kind of the amazing and indigenous art that is often marginalized, eradicated, and or outright stolen. So that is a portion of how they do it. What we like to get at on this show before we really start discussing the albums is to let you guys know how we're familiar with these artists. So why don't you start us off, Jet? How do you know of them?
They showed us some love on IG. We showed them some love. This was my first time actually sitting down and listening to their music. I'd seen some of the kind of content they were posting online, which I don't want to describe as deceptive per se, but probably colored my impression of them differently to what this tape is setting out to achieve. But yeah,
what do you mean by that?
I just like, obviously, when you're trying to promote your music on Instagram, like, and you're doing reels and things like that, you have music videos of them performing, and like maybe there's like an AI voice or something being like, we're a hip hop group, we're a hip hop couple producing indigenous themed rap music, and I was just kind of like, oh, okay, that's cool. And it wasn't until I actually listened to the music and actually, took away some of the actual depth of it. I kind of also just have a bit of an allergy to like social media promo, so I think maybe I just bounced off of that, and I was like, these guys are cool, these guys are dope, and then I just kind of moved on my way. But actually, I think giving this and this collaboration with Hidden Renaissance like an actual listen, was I mean, we'll get into that.
How are you familiar with them? Just by us telling you to figure it out, like check this out?
No, actually, it's kind of crazy. In 2020, I made during the COVID pandemic, I was part of this group that was putting together like a group mixtape. And it was just like the subreddit for like making hip hop, and in the sub like that Discord channel or group, whatever, like Throne was actually in it. And they were making music and stuff, and they were part of the tape for a bit, and then I think they had to drop out due to some like time constraints or something. But we checked out their music and stuff. They were really dope. We were looking forward to having them be a part of it, but it didn't work out. But that's how I was familiar with the name. We talked a little bit in the Discord here and there, and then I think that's actually maybe where the Hidden Renaissance kind of started. So I think the Hidden Renaissance is basically their idea of bringing together like a community of people from like the internet and stuff, and making like a kind of like a hip hop group, I guess, or like
Okay.
a collective.
There's like a super group
almost.
collective kind of thing going on there.
Collective.
It's also the label that they've released.
Yeah.
this
It's a production
album on.
company,
Now it's a
right?
label
Production,
now. Wow,
yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
But basically, the way it was working in the Discord I was part of is producers would put beats, and then artists would have to write a verse to it, and then people would choose which verse would go on the song.
Oh, that's dope.
If the verse was no good, like, you weren't on the song, and there was a lot of people trying on a lot of different songs and stuff. So I'm not sure if this was inspiration for their Hidden Renaissance. From what I've seen, it's very similar, but maybe it just kind of happened to like happen parallel as well. And Hidden Renaissance is very dope. I got some homies that were also in that group, like my homie DeLorean McFly. He's a Canadian producer. He's a dope ass producer. If you want to put on some of his stuff right now on Spotify, even in the background, his beats are fire.
No,
man.
I'm not doing the Spotify, but if he's
okay.
got, I mean, no, I was thinking SoundCloud, but
Yeah.
DeLorean McFly.
Yeah, DELORO.
Yeah.
He's also on Hidden Renaissance's first album, I believe. And then McFly. Space and the name McFly. Yeah, so anyways, some of the homies are on that. There's another rapper I worked with. He was also on the Hidden Renaissance as well. And yeah, like, it's just really cool that they kind of came together and they made a really dope album, you know, and they just kind of worked it out. And yeah, Throne was really behind that. They were kind of pushing that. So shout out to them, you know. I really appreciate, you know, having that moment in history and time, you know, like kind of linking up. And yeah, man.
That's fantastic. I love how when you're a active participant in hip hop subculture, you kind of just fucking touch everything. There's that it's less of a 6 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon as it is like a 3-degree separation from Micah 9 or some shit, you know what I mean? Like so no, that's really dope and incredible. One of the things about the album to me is like I was a little bit confused by some of the Spotify kind of credits because it does say Throne, it does say Hidden Renaissance, and there's often a couple different
the features,
names.
which I assume is the Hidden Renaissance members.
So
sort of
exactly.
individually.
That's what I was thinking
Producers
too.
and rappers,
Like In Tune.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that this is another producer. Also Wolf Morpheus is on this as well. Shout out to them, to Wolf Morpheus. Amazing. So okay, that's actually a really wonderful little tidbit, and I'm glad that you were able to join us for this discussion because, like I said, I found them to be very impressive, like sonically, but also just the grind. Like to have 250,000 Instagram followers means that they're putting in the work. And
to be honest, I don't think they had that in 2020. So really, it's just the work they've been putting in the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, some of those reels and stuff were comfortably in the millions of views. So I'm hoping that translates tangibly into like more ears on their music and you know maybe making them a little bit of money so they can continue to do this thing for us.
They got like 15,000 on Spotify, so I feel like it's
that
sounds about right for.
One of the things about it too is that their name is a little bit difficult to kind of like
Google.
Because like especially this album, if you type in Throne with no spaces Tempest, there's like a group called like Tempest Throne or something, and so it brings that up, and also just the stylization of their name Throne. If you just type in Throne into
all caps with spaces,
if you just type in Throne without the spaces on Spotify, it does not bring them up immediately. You kind of have to do the work.
Watch the Throne and stuff first.
All types of different things. But yeah, just to get into the kind of the details of my thoughts on the album, I really thoroughly enjoyed the project. And I have gone back to listen to some of their other albums, but I've done so in a more kind of casual manner with me just kind of listening and not inspecting or critiquing or thinking too much about what they were doing. And this is kind of the first time that I sat down and thought about some of the intentions, some of the things that were going on. And I just find them as a duo, like the type of art they're creating is like intriguing and important and special to me, especially within just like, you know, the indie rap biosphere. I don't want to place too much of an emphasis on like the fact that we have like a First Nations indigenous person and another person with like Jewish ancestry heritage making the music, because like identity is important, but it's like only of tremendous importance if there's something like inherently special about it, or towards actual representation. And just because they're of that ancestry doesn't mean that they're making dope or interesting art. But for them, it's like there is
thankfully they are.
Yeah, thankfully they are. You know, and you know there's a few other groups like A Tribe Called Red and you know, like I grew up listening to like Young Grey Horse, because I also have first person native indigenous heritage in my background. But what they do here is like it's well executed. It's a good balance between like execution and intent, and I think this album is nice, breezy listen with a lot of great balance of lyrics, production, vibe. It's dope as fuck. And one song in particular on the album really hits for me, and it's automatically on my list of 20 or so favorite songs of the year so far. So yeah, I enjoy it.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, no, I mean certainly as far as like beat selection and harmonically how it all works, I really oddly enough I'd gone from listening to the new Hiatus Coyote album to listening to this one, and Yehega has a very similar quality to their voice that Napalm does, and they also do these kind of big like harmonic kind of runs and stuff that like will be worked into the instrumental, that has a very, very similar kind of vibe, but obviously they're setting out to go in two very different directions. You have this kind of pop jazz that Hiatus Coyote doing this independent.
I thought you would particularly enjoy some of their other work. This album is not so heavy on like songs just focusing on Yehega. I'm just singing, but there is kind of like an Amy Winehouse quality, and I know how much adoration and how much you appreciate Amy Winehouse work.
We'll get into really Amy on our next review for sure. But
I actually didn't think about Hiatus Coyote as much as I did Amy Winehouse.
I absolutely see that as well. But yeah, I think all in all, I mean the actual sonic quality of this album is phenomenal. This sounds expensive. This sounds like a fully realized, even though it has a lot of what I love about independent hip hop. It's a little noisy, it's a little chaotic. Like there's a lot of like moments of weirdness in like a or extraordinariness.
Things
if we
step to the left or the right of like things that step to the left of right of convention a little bit, sprinkle in a little bit of that otherness.
What are you trying to do?
Sorry, no, just the person that masters all their stuff as well. Like,
Rose Quartz.
I think it's specifically because of Rose Quartz.
Okay.
It gives it that feel that you're describing.
I mean, absolutely. Flowers to Rose Quartz on that one, because the album sounds phenomenal. It sounds really good.
It does. Like even their first project was extremely refined, and I think that's like part of the reason I found it special. I was like, wow, like just 2 years ago, this is where you start your kind of musical journey together, and everything sounds like you guys have like it's almost like an industry plant type of thing. Like, wait, where do they come from, and why are they so dope? And I'm not making any type of accusations towards that. I'm just saying that it's unusual that you find some artistry that is so refined and so put together that it just like kind of emerges.
And the vision is so clear from the start. Usually artists kind of find that as they go along, but they seem to have it from the start.
From day one, I really do appreciate them. I'll just put some of it on in the background so we can kind of like just jump around a bit.
I do agree with what both of you were saying as well. I think overall the production, there's a certain element or certain feeling that kind of meshes with the songs that come afterwards and stuff, and it just makes for a really easy listen that you can just go from start.
Can you get closer on the mic? For some reason you sound low in my head.
You too?
No, you sound alright to me.
Okay, my bad.
That's all good. I'm gonna bring it closer anyways. But yeah, just it all meshes together, and it just makes it such an easy listen that you can just put this on and then time will just fly by, and then it'll be done, it'll loop again. And I think the duration of the actual songs plays into this as well. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It makes itself present. You appreciate it, and then it's finished. It's a really good length, I think, for this type of album.
Super well sequenced. It all flows together to the point where it's like you hear musical changes, but you aren't sure if they're occurring in one track or if it's going to another, or did I listen to two tracks now, or did I listen to three? And I don't know, like there's as like a rap fan, I was paying attention a lot to the lyricism from H, and I do kind of like his kind of free form. It's almost like conventional bar styles at time, but that he leans into like poetic meters or like subverting like the rule of rhyming the last word. And content wise, it's a pretty solid mix of your interpersonal / braggadocio / social critiques, and sometimes they get towards things that I really appreciate. There's not a lot of like a political critique on this album.
And it is one thing that I don't know if that's something more present in some of the other works, but I was kind of hoping for like for how kind of radical this album can be in certain places, both sonically and in terms of its content. I guess it doesn't necessarily coheres into a larger kind of political message, and I don't.
I was half expecting that,
which is kind of something I was kind of expecting. It's clearly just not what they set out to accomplish with this record.
Right.
Sonically, like the presence of everybody involved on this, I think really comes through. It's a very short listen, but there's so much going on. There's the Tempest, as it were, right? Yeah. Like there's a lot of cooks involved in the broth, but I think it all coheres really, really well.
And I think it's supposed to be somewhat of a story they're telling, especially from the last song where it says, I needed to speak. Somewhere near the beginning of the song, they say something like, you've made it to the end of the story, or thank you for listening, or something like that. Something to that effect. So I think there is a little bit of a storytelling element to this as we go through the songs. So I think maybe it's gone over my head, but I think
I didn't necessarily pull like a through line to it that other than how sonically cohesive it sounds. I didn't get like a narrative through line from it, and I didn't know to really expect that. Also, I didn't read like we didn't get like an EPK describing the album to us or anything like that. So also, that's on me for just not doing extra legwork for it, but I did try to Google, and that's how I found how to pronounce the names. But yeah, like there, back to H, like on this song, So I Guess I'm Alive. Man, that beat is so lovely, and he's got. They've got like these bars on it. There's like, I found a rope in the darkness. I pulled a soft glimmer of light in the distance. I cut my bare feet on the wet, sharp stone. I was like, wow, that moment of the album is so beautiful. Yeah. And also on I Need to Speak, there seems to be like a portion at the end of the track where perhaps Yahega is singing in her. Are they Creek? I'm not sure, but singing in the native, the original indigenous language, and I find that just like wonderful and fascinating. And yeah,
there's a lot of sublime to this record. Like it does. When it kind of, H finds a pocket and the production is kind of just going along doing its thing. You got Yahega providing like some harmonies or coming in at the end, or the features. You got Nishith, I believe or Nisith. I'm not sure you pronounce that. On So I Guess I'm Alive. The way that it all kind of coheres is it has this kind of sublimeness to it, where it's like you really do capture that natural sensation that's kind of being summoned by like the storytelling and the lyrics, as well as just how kind of breezy and airy the production is on this record.
There's a lot of like when it comes to the production, it sounds very clean and wide. I know we've said that, but the sample choices, the vocal layering, the interplay between the sung and the rap, but those little details that you're talking about, Jed, are also pretty wonderful. Little additions of like what sounds like field recordings of seagulls, little crashes at certain parts of the verse to add and give it a more kind of lived-in world narrative feel. It makes me walk away feeling like it's a really large and grandiose feeling project, but it's also just so naturalistically just vibey that it feels effortless. And that's what I was saying about how tremendous they are in their fully formed artistry. This album, we've probably been talking longer about it than the album is in length, but
19 minutes either way.
Yeah, and it like so many of the songs, there's a lot to glean from it. And I found my daughter, Cannonball, she was listening and like, wow, this is something she could appreciate. And I love the kind of lane that they occupy, and I really am looking forward to hearing more of them. Even if they don't necessarily really dive into American Indian movement or like Nick Estes type of radical liberatory First Nation persons type of politics. I know that they're in solidarity with those things just by the expression. And I'm a big fan, man. Like I really, really kind of was surprised how much play this album got from me. I didn't make a lot of notes, but this thing has been on loop for me a lot recently. Yeah, it's a great album for this time of year. It's destroying for me. It's wonderful. Casting Rifles, Yahega is so lovely on that. Oh man, the album is great.
Casting Rifles, I was lying through my teeth when I said I had potential. I was trying to bleed into existence, dying on my pedestal. Like,
it's beautiful, so vivid. Like the imagery on this record is phenomenal.
Yeah. Or Felice, is that how you pronounce it?
Felice,
Keep tending my crops till I feed all my ops. Like it's really, really kind of like this joint. You can hear the seagulls in the background. It's like this one is only like a minute long, but a kind of like what would almost feel like a very recognizable simple soul sample, but the way it's flipped and the way that they add those little clicks and dibbles and little magical things to it, and just what's being said is it's a minute. It comes in and it catches you, and then it keeps it moving.
Yeah. Even Prometheus.
Yeah.
Preserve and persevere when your wallet is right here. Forgiveness, no glower. The 3 cheers from pragmatism. Just man.
That Prometheus
here,
beat is
here,
dope
yeah.
too.
This beat's fucking crazy.
Yeah. I mean, In Tune and Deep Fried Pocky, both very, very sick producers.
Okay. Are they also from that community? That
Deep Fried Pocky was on Hidden Renaissance as well, the
Okay.
other tape. And
Okay.
They're very prolific on that. I'm not sure about In Tune. I don't know if In Tune was on Hidden Renaissance, but they've produced a lot of different beat tapes and stuff. I really like their album. What's it called? Push Volume 1.
Okay.
Push Volume 1 was really good. So,
Man, I'm so glad we have Deza on for this one to kind of
Yeah.
give us a little bit more perspective on this group, because again, this beat is kind of it sounds like something you would find like a Fly Anakin rapping over or somebody like that, and there's such a variety on it. It's just a really special type of meal, man. This is what do we got for favorites on this one? Gentlemen's
favorites for me, I gotta say Warpath, I Needed to Speak, Prometheus, So I Guess I'm Alive.
Okay.
Yeah, I Needed to Speak is playing right now too. Like there's just the beat is cold, man.
Yeah, I think so. I Guess I'm Alive, I Need to Speak, and actually I like None Like I a lot too. I mean, the whole album's good. It's 18 minutes, so I love all of it.
Yeah.
Prometheus, So I Guess I'm Alive, Orpheles.
Okay.
Yeah.
I walk better with the people. Like, what is it? The line before that is something like the Messiah, I walk better with the people. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean, like
It's
those
fucking
little things. Those are what I loved about like Cannibal Ox when it dropped. Like, there's such an intention behind everything. It's just
so cold, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to Throne.
Yeah.
For real. Yeah, man.
For sure.
Hidden Renaissance.
Yeah.
Just keep doing your thing. It's crazy.
Yeah. Shout out to all the First Nations people, man. Like, you know, as a Marxist, like like Maoism is like the peasantry will rise up, but I think that in the modern day, especially like in like Marxist or even leftist anarchist corners, there seems to be more of a focus on like minority groups kind of leading the way towards liberation. You know, LGBTQ communities, First Nation people, the global South and stuff, more so than just like the global peasantry and the global South, but like. I've always had a special place in my heart for Native Americans, because my father, was a black man, grew up on a reservation of the Seminole Reservation. Not grew up, he left when he was pretty early, but his brother, who he lost contact with, married a Navajo woman, and they live on a reservation. And all of my cousins, everything, were deeply. They had more access to that side of our I guess, ontological experience as American or people in America. And so I tried to do my homework on it, and I followed it, and like fucking the American Indian movement is such an interesting piece of time that you just don't really hear too much about in leftist circles, and it speaks to kind of the separation between, especially for Westerns, the separation of access that they have about the original American peoples. That type of information has been washed from the history books almost as much as like the Red Scare washed communism from the history books, because a lot of these things were also tangentially related. Like the American Indian movement, at first it started off as like, like they're stealing little Native American kids and chaining it, but also it got into very much the material conditions, which focus on the class dynamics and the relationships between modes of production, and how Native American peoples were being continuously oppressed. And I know this even as a Canadian, finding all these Native American graveyards, mass graves and
residential schools and all that.
And I love the fact that, like, I love, for me, like, representation's always very useful for like children and people who might need that, but it's never been enough. But I am so glad to have somebody outwardly expressing these things and just being dope, and also putting that on the table for people to understand and recognize that are outside of it, especially a person who is outside of kind of the industry in a way that is being narrated by, like, shaped by music executives and things. Like this person, like these people are grassroots and doing it and putting it down, and their success to me is wonderful. And I think that it's something that we should pay attention to. Sorry for the rant, I didn't even mean to do that. Let's get off. Peace.
Hey, shouts out to all our patrons, like friends of the show on screen right now. Caltrops Press, Noname Book Club, Sonic Cloth currently on hiatus, Rap Music Club Podcast, Extraordinary Rap. Am I missing anyone? I'm probably missing someone. But big up yourself too.
I had a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
Hey.
Bye.
Read Nick Estes.
You froze $1, dime your time back. That percentage gonna fry your future brain.